Hey, howdy, hey, fellow nerd geeks, Ollie here, and today we're going to be diving into a topic that should be well known to fans of the Warhammer franchises, the video games. But this isn't a video of praise. Oh no. Instead, we're going to take a look at what's available, what's being promised, what's coming up, and figure out whether or not we, the players, are getting gypped. But before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content like this. With that out of the way, let's jump into it. Now, let me preface this with the statement that I am a fan of both the original fantasy and 40k tabletop games, their universes, and their respective lores, but as is the case for a lot of people who enjoy them, I can't really afford to invest too much into the miniatures for the tabletop games. But luckily for those of us who may not have the time or money required to devote to the hobby of building and painting miniature armies to battle on a 4x4 grid, there's other options out there on electronic platforms to allow us to more easily sink our extra hours of life into at a generally more affordable rate. And even though Games Workshop has been licensing out their IPs for electronic adaptations for well over 3 decades, the past few years have seen a massive increase in the amount of games released that are based on the various Warhammer franchises. However, like most large multimedia franchises, not every game is going to be a smash hit, and there are certainly a few duds in the catalog. But in spite of this notion, there are some hidden gems amongst the ranks of Games Workshop's digital market. Even so, there is a glaring issue plaguing the list of titles available to players across multiple platforms: the prices. Now, while online prices for digital downloads are an ongoing debate for video games as a whole, for the most part, this is regarding AAA titles such as Red Dead Redemption 2 or the latest Final Fantasy or Assassin's Creed games, costing gamers the same to download as it does to purchase a physical copy upon release. Even more, how the cost for a physical disc may drop over time while the digital download price remains steady for a lot longer before eventually dropping as well. Yet, when looking at the various games on offer within the Warhammer franchises, there's something else that greatly affects the validity of this debate on pricing and cost when it comes to Games Workshop's properties, and that's the quality of the games themselves. Now, because the market for Warhammer is very niche, players generally already know when they buy a new game that it probably won't be Game of the Year when comparing it to much more popular and better selling series and publishers, and brand loyalists can, for the most part, disregard negative aspects for the sake of their own immersion and enjoyment. But when a turn-based tactics game, especially one that's 6 years old and hasn't even been updated for modern consoles, is listed on digital markets for $40, there definitely seems to be a bit of chicanery at play. And when we take a deeper look at the other titles on offer, we start seeing more of the same. Battle Sector, 3 years old and no 9th gen update, $40. Chaos Gate, released on PC 2 years ago, but just a few months ago for consoles, $45 for the base game, or $50 for the Ultimate Edition. And Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin, released last year and listed today for $60. So why is this such a problem and a hot button issue? Because these are not AAA releases, nor were they hotly anticipated by the gaming industry as a whole. In fact, I would argue that Realms of Ruin was released to take advantage of the market at the time of release of Baldur's Gate 3, which had been hotly anticipated for years and is said by many to be one of the greatest games of all time. But while scrolling through the list of Warhammer games on PlayStation Store, something caught my eye and took me by surprise as well. Warhammer Chaos Bane, a game modeled on the classic action RPGs like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and Champions of Norath, was shown on sale with a 90% markdown from $60 to just $6. Now, I actually already own a physical copy on PS4 that I bought at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic for $15 used instead of the $60 listed download price it has maintained for 4 solid years. But this digital download on PS5 also included all of the DLC released for the game that would have cost me around $20 if I just wanted to upgrade my PS4 version. Obviously, $6 is a lot better than $20, especially in this economy. So I downloaded it. But admittedly, while as a fan of Warhammer I do enjoy it, Chaos Bane is mediocre at best. It's full of flaws such as a lack of a true item shop, no need to maintain inventories on potions, and incredibly repetitive level design. But who am I to pass up such a deal, right? And that's when it hit me on what's actually happening with these prices. Most of these games are not intended to sell at their marked full price. They're meant to get periodically and temporarily marked down or bundled together to make players think they're getting an amazing deal. Let's take another look at that screen that's got all the Chaos Gate prices on it. Now, just in case you didn't notice before, the third option here bundles the base edition with Realms of Ruin for just $30 more, which suggests a savings of $30 considering their individual listings are for $45 and $60 respectively. But even then, are the two games combined worth $75 when the same amount can get you a new AAA title like Baldur's Gate 3? Probably not, and that probably goes for most of the Warhammer video games out there. But this doesn't mean that all of the games in the franchise are this way, or that the games that do use this pricing tactic are necessarily bad games in their own right. In fact, the upcoming Space Marine 2 is one of the most hotly anticipated games in the industry and can certainly justify its $70 initial price. And as far as the hidden gems go, I got Bolt Gun on sale for just over $13, which is a discount of about 40% off from its regular price of just $22. And the run and gun platformer Shooter's Blood and Teeth, which looks incredibly fun, has a regular listing price of $20. So assuming it will follow the same pattern, that price should eventually drop significantly and I can add it to my library. Despite the optimism though, this is still a problem as I'm going to have to wait for that price to drop before making my purchase, as I may already be setting some cash aside for a day one release of Space Marine 2. And to drop $20 on what is essentially just a short and goofy flash game is hardly justifiable. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the universes these games take place in, and I'm definitely willing to spend more than the average gamer to purchase some of these titles. But there are just certain things that can't be ignored, and a line has to be drawn somewhere. For instance, I can't justify paying $20 for Warhammer Quest when it is pretty much just a port of the tabletop dungeon crawler of the same name with an incredibly basic gameplay engine, especially when I could play the third game in that series for free on my phone. Overall, it seems that there are just certain things that Warhammer fans cannot escape from, regardless of if they are playing the tabletop games or the various video game adaptations. And complaining about the cost to participate in any activity based in a Games Workshop IP is something that is just part of being a fan. But that doesn't mean we have to give in. You hear me, Games Workshop? I'm on to your tactics. I mean, I'm still going to probably end up dropping $70 when Space Marine 2 drops in September because I've been waiting 13 years for it and it looks awesome. But I also wouldn't mind sinking hours of gameplay into something like Rogue Trader, the Total War Warhammer games, which I believe should have just been called Total Warhammer, or even Necromunda Hired Gun. Unfortunately, unless there is a significant drop in price for most of these games, most of the Games Workshop titles available to me will probably continue to fly under my radar. And I'm not just talking about bundling two games set in different universes together for slightly higher cost than to purchase the ever-popular Baldur's Gate 3. I'm talking about those games being bundled together for a fraction of the cost of Baldur's Gate 3 and other similar price drops. But as long as the listed prices continue to remain as high as they are, all I can do, or any Warhammer fan for that matter, is wait for some of the titles to quote-unquote go on sale and snag what I can. Now, if you enjoyed this video, remember to give a like and subscribe to the channel, or you'll receive a dual chaos blessing of insatiable desires from Slaanesh and impotence from Nurgle. Thanks for watching, and may the Emperor guide your hand.
A few moments later,